And it goes a little something like.
Alright, so I want to welcome everyone to another episode of the Mirrorless Podcast. We have Matt Gagliardi as a guest tonight. He's a videographer from East Haven, Connecticut. Very good friend of mine. I do see him as a Premiere Pro magician, wizard, and a special effects. Just very skilled at special effects. And I could keep going, and I truly look up to this kid. But we will turn it over to Matt Gagliardi. So welcome.
Thank you so much. It's very nice being here with you gentlemen. Great job on the podcast. I'm a huge fan already.
Thank you.
And totally honored to be a part of this thing so early in its development too.
Yeah, it's been a journey, but we're having fun with it so far, and just being able to connect on a different level, you know? Like even today, it's so hard to connect with anybody anyhow, just with this whole pandemic thing, but like to really talk to people, just have a nice conversation that flows and not worried about, I got to be somewhere or do something. It's like, we're here to talk. So it's really fun for that.
Matt, tell us a little about yourself, your hobbies, your interests, and what do you do?
Well, as you mentioned, I'm a videographer. I wasn't really considered professional, but now I do it for a living. So, that's what I do on the day-to-day. I've been doing it my whole life, literally, like, since I was about 6 years old. I think as we discussed earlier, sitting in front of my dad's computer and editing on good old Windows Movie Maker back in the day.
That's where it all starts, man.
Yeah. And it's incredible how not only how fast time has gone by, but technology too. I mean, from where I was back then to like where we are now. It's an excellent hobby. It's something that anybody can get into. And it's just like, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for here? So it's accessible. I mean, literally anybody can do it.
Even from when I started, like, which is way, like a couple years ago compared to when you've been doing it, like just what Premiere Pro can do now compared to a couple of years ago, it's like you almost don't even need me. It's like, as far as learning all the hotkeys and everything, it's like, man, that's all you gotta do is simple cut of a button and you've got the whole thing synced up and ready to go, and like it's crazy.
So true.
It's crazy. Matt, I wanted to ask you this. What would you, like, obviously since you've been doing it for so long, like how would you feel that, I mean, with technology advancing so much, like it really does, I don't know if you would agree with this, but does it really just unleash like a whole different world to you from what you were able to do back in the day to now in Premiere Pro, or, from Windows Movie Maker to now Premiere Pro, which is just like endless? Like, how would you say that your potential has just kind of blew up in a sense of that?
It's weird because, like, at the end of the day, we're just telling stories. That's what we do, right? And you do it through the eye of the lens of the camera. But Windows Movie Maker for the time, and that's what you did. It was laid out like a storyboard. You would just drag clips in, and they weren't even shown in length. If you're a video editor, you know what I'm talking about. It didn't actually show a big track. It was just a square. It was a picture of your clip, and you would just literally put a bunch of pictures of your clips, and it looked like a big picture frame wall at the end of it. And that's what you would do, and you would tell your story. It's incredible how, like you said, it opens up this whole new world. I'm not really sure if I've gotten better or technology. I guess both technology and, right? But
gear matters, right? Gear matters.
Right, yeah. Yeah, well, But like, I'd like to think if Windows Movie Maker was still the thing, that my videos would... they would suck. Probably suck. Premiere is an amazing tool.
You kind of want them to suck because if if yours is as good as you are now as you were back then, have you really progressed? So you want them to be bad back then because then you've gotten better. So,
but if I was editing on Windows Movie Maker now, I still think they'd be god awful. There'd be no way.
Does Windows still have a movie maker?
I don't think so. I think they stopped with that because Adobe's...
That is so funny.
Yeah.
Adobe kind of took over, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and Macs have Final Cut.
Yeah, there's too much of that. I mean, and then there's a lot of freebies too. So like, if you're not one of those big ones that updates every month or however many times it updates, then you've got competition, a bunch of free stuff. So I don't see how they'd survive really.
But it is kind of crazy how stuff advances, and like you would have thought like Windows would have kept up, but moment of silence for Windows, I guess.
Moment of silence for Windows.
But it launched so many people into it, So look at Matt,
Got me going. No, seriously, it did. It's I would be totally into it if Windows just came out and said, yeah, we're just Windows Movie Maker for the next for Windows 11 or something. Let's be so for that, because it would probably be really advanced considering what we have now and the technology.
I think
you never know though, because
go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just the way the world is, it's like the throwbacks from 20 years ago always creep up back around, like it's nostalgia or antique or whatever. So like record players are back in fashion now, and like things like that. So who knows? Windows Movie Maker might come back for its 40th anniversary one of these days and just like pop on the scene, ready to
hope so.
Strike the competition.
I was gonna say, because doesn't Windows own like the tablets? It's the Windows tablets, right? The ones that have the keyboard, right, or something, dude.
Yeah,
the
ones no one has.
The Surface Pro.
Surface, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And obviously, I mean, not a lot of people have, but they've been promoting that junk like crazy. And like, if they would have had a movie maker on that, and just like with the times, because everything is now pictures and video, like that has taken the world by storm. If they would have kept up with that, man, that would have been awesome. But actually, like Adobe kind of stepped in and.
Come to think of it, isn't the commercial for the Surface Pro about a commercial editor or producer or something? And she's talking about how she can do all that stuff on her Surface Pro.
Yeah.
But that's that's probably all Adobe though, right? Like.
Yeah. Do you ever get worried about job security?
A little bit, definitely. Well, I mean, okay. So in a sense, no, because goes back to your point. It's about telling stories. And I think no matter how much technology comes forth, if you're a good storyteller, you won't have a problem, because people love a good story. Yeah, I mean, look at the movies that are out today that have crazy CGI and effects and like visually can blow you away, but everyone's like, yeah, but the story was horrible. So a good story will always do it. But I remember when I started in photo wasn't as accessible. People were like, oh, we need pictures taken. But now like anyone can go to their iPhone, put a filter on, and they got a photo, and they're like, this is amazing. So then I kind of crept into some video, and it's slowly, the video's catching up to like any average person that doesn't really do much can kind of float into there and get something decent out of it. So in that sense, yes. But in another sense, telling that story is just, that's where I think the true value and skill lies, in my opinion.
100%.
I agree in a sense. I think obviously job security should be the main focus in any type of career. Do I have a job security? It is kind of scary because like Dave said, there's iPhones, camera, or smartphones coming out that like you can snap a picture, take a photo, and it's like boom, like almost professional grade, ready for Instagram, stuff like that, in your pocket. And it's like, okay, we got all this camera, we got all these lenses, like will that be obsolete soon? It's kind of funny to think, but I did see a thing on Instagram or YouTube, but literally the drone, right? The drone put the helicopter out of business, and then the man that was filming on the helicopter out of business. You know what I'm saying? So like, boom, in a heartbeat, that job is gone. So you kind of do have to think in that sense, like, okay, where is this technology going and stuff? So it's interesting to think about, but I do think like along the lines of what Dave was saying, like it's all about storytelling. And I think the bright people are going to invest in you if they really are serious about the business and want high quality stuff, because anyone can just take their iPhone out and take a photo, and it'd be more than good enough for Instagram. So, but
yeah, and you think too, like it is about telling a story, because like video and photography is way less accessible than writing a story. You need a paper and a pen and a pad, or any computer. You can write a book if you want, sit down and do it. but it's not like anybody can just write a book. Like, to tell that story it takes talent and skill and time, and you also have to be passionate about it. With video and photography, yeah, I mean, even if they have all the equipment in front of them, telling that story is just like, I think being, we're the authors, you can't just replicate our work of telling a story just because you have our gear. You have to be able to do what we do, which is the hardest part, which is the creative. And I think that, in a sense, and I could be wrong here, that can't be duplicated in an app. I mean, I've seen some apps you can put a bunch of videos in there. I don't know if you've ever looked in your phone, like your phone's like, oh, it's been a month. Here we go. Let's look down memory lane.
It's so annoying.
And and you press play.
Automatically, it did that behind the scenes.
Yeah, while we sleep.
Skynet is real.
While we sleep, and our phone's like, yeah. It's
just looking at you as you closed eyes.
No, that's so accurate. Because literally what Matt was saying is like, it'll be like, oh, your day in Stratford, Connecticut, and it'll be like a whole nice movie, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, wow, thank you. But
to Matt's
free.
point, they're all trash that I've ever seen, and I always delete them right away. So yeah, the story counts.
They are in general trash, but there are some good, like, it did. When the beat dropped,
like,
it transitioned. I was like, okay.
yeah. Sometimes you'll sit back and go, that was kind of a dope transition. It kind of worked. It kind of flowed. And then there's always a drone shot of you, and you're like, that's not from my phone, man. Like, what's that?
It is so funny. Oh my goodness. So true though. Matt, we want to... Go ahead, Matt. What'd you say?
No, I just don't think you can replicate a true artist. Same thing with paintings. There's a reason why people still spend millions of dollars sometimes on paintings of just a bunch of colors splashed onto a canvas, because there's feeling, there's meaning, there's human feeling behind it.
True.
And also because people have a lot of money to blow and whatever, they're gonna put it towards something.
I like that.
Yeah, I just don't think that an app will ever really truly feel the human emotion aspect of what goes into what we do.
But it's getting pretty darn close,
Does come really close, scarily close.
Anyway.
So Matt, I had a question for Matt.
Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead, Dave.
Now we know you started with Windows Movie Maker. What are you using now? Not only just gear, but software and everything. Like, what's your process now of filming, and what's your go-to gear? If I could ask that.
Sure.
Very broad question. So.
Not a problem. Gear-wise, I use a Canon 5D. That is like my go-to camera. It can literally, you know what it is? You can't, to me, match the color of a Canon. They're incredible sensors, and their color palette is honestly untouchable as far as DSLRs go.
Let me ask you real quick. I'll interject. I want you to keep going with that. But in specific to that question, because I use my Canon as well, what do you set your settings on? Do you have a custom setting that you use, or do you use the color profiles that they have?
Absolutely. Yeah, to be fair, the 5D is something, when you say custom, you mean the settings that I use? I
was saying custom, like, do you kind of change your settings to match up? Like, I'll give you an example. Like, for me, I have the Canon ADD, and I also have the Panasonic GH5. And what I do for color grading in post, since we have two other Panasonics, I change my Canon to match up with my Panasonic. But I know that that's the color that's in the...
That's the picture control, right?
The picture style or profile, whatever it's called. But I was just wondering if you use some of the presets that are already there, if you kind of do something specific to you, because I know that they have the other profiles or whatever too that you can use. But
yeah, on my Sony A7S, I use the PP7 profile. It's just the flattest possible picture you can get. Same thing on the Canon. Canon I just recently got from a friend. And I use it for work. So whatever he had on it is the flattest image possible. I really don't know beyond that. The only thing I really mess with, that I need to mess with, I love the picture profile as it is. I actually never went into that because it's so cinematic as is. It's a nice flat picture. I'll mess with frame rate, ISO, shutter speed. That's really the only thing exposure. Those are the only things I really messed with. And that's what I thought you were asking before.
Got you. Oh, I mean, you can hit those points too. I just was, because someone had just asked me about that the other day too, that was new to, they were going to do some vlogging or like tutorials or something on YouTube. And I said, hey, just so you know, before you go into post, because I've had to deal with it in a wedding where like I have a very nice flat picture and a flat picture, and all of a sudden my Canon's like, bam, here's the color, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta adjust these now to match up in post. And it's especially like when you're like me, sometimes splicing up all your video first and then thinking, oh wait, I have to go back and match these colors like an idiot sometimes.
Everything.
But
anyhow, yeah, it was just a quite
I think that's even in photography too, because I mean, I know you're talking about picture control, and I really didn't understand what that did until a photographer suggested it and was like, oh, shoot in like flat because you can bring back anything you want, like color wise and stuff. And I think I was shooting on like standard at the time, but when even now I still shoot at a neutral picture, just to bring out that color. And it's the same for video, I'd imagine. Like everyone, from the videos that I've watched, they shoot in like is it like a vlog or n-log?
Vlog 2 or log 2.
Yeah, so it's like a neutral, it's like everything's flat, but then like you really have to know how to edit and put the colors into it and stuff to really bring it out. And I think Canon is great, and like I've seen like some crazy specs on some Canons, even the one that just came out, R5, R6, stuff like that. And it's just like, man, I would consider switching, but it's just like such an investment to, from what I have to what I would need to invest in. But I mean, for what I do now, it's good for Nikon's good for what I have, but I mean, no knock to any camera, but
that's not what you did in the other episode. I'm just joking. There's another friend of ours that we had on Nikon Canon type episode, and they were like, Nikon gain, let's go. So
I was gonna say that it was just so funny that like, prior to what I said, you wouldn't catch me dead with the Canon. But no, it really would be like super dope to like upgrade to a nice system, but it's like I count the the cost of it, like what would just the lenses and stuff. So just work with what you got. But
so sorry, Matt, to continue on, I cut you off and we got on a big tangent. So after you once you go into post, what do you like to use?
Adobe Premiere, and I probably will never stop. I mean, I guess now what's that new one? You ever hear the new thing that's everyone's using now?
Yeah, I can't think of the name right now, but they're kind of like, it's cheap, right? They're like, oh, it's a lot cheaper and it's like way better to use.
Yeah, they're saying it's way better. Look, I don't really care. I'm just very used to Premiere, and I really love the workflow, and it's Adobe Premiere. I went from Windows Movie Maker to Sony Vegas, and I used Sony Vegas religiously, and I swore by it too for years, 10 years maybe, 11 years, Sony Vegas. And it's a really great program. It's great, especially if you don't buy it, which I'm not saying you should. You should totally buy Sony Vegas, but if you don't want to, you can steal it, which you shouldn't do. But if you want, you can, it's there. No, I had Sony Vegas for like 10 years and 11 years.
You said Sega Genesis? Is that what you had? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, super cool gaming console, actually.
Great console. It's before your time. How old are you?
28, actually.
Okay, so yeah.
I played it when I was in diapers, but I don't remember that time, so.
Right. And then I went to Adobe Premiere officially maybe like 5 years ago, and I never went back. It's like, at first it was very intimidating because like it's what all the big guys were using, and every time I would see like somebody using it, I'd see like the audio levels moving up and down and all these bars and all these widgets, numbers and everything. I'm like, I'm just trying to put I'm just trying to put some pictures together and just make something flow. I'm not trying to do all this math. And then I tried it one day and I was like, it's all right. And of course I just kept using it and like anything. You use it enough and like you just become really good with it. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying I'm really good with it, but you become proficient.
No, you're really good at it.
You're right. And then
well, what's nice too is like you're saying, you're so familiar with it now that if it is something that you need to learn how to do, it's much easier. Like I was super intimidated too, because it's like, oh, I want this and this and this. I'm like, I don't even know where to start. Like, but now it's like, okay, I know how to do this in principle, so I should be able to find it. And it all kind of makes sense when you're researching on it and going to that school of YouTube.
That reminds me, does Angelo works for you, right?
We work together. We're partners. Yeah.
And I saw the Tyler Little.
Only because if he listens to this, he's gonna get. No, just joking. No, yeah, we're partners. You saw Tyler's. Yeah, we just did the little. Did he post that? I don't know if we posted that anywhere.
I don't know if he posted it, but I asked him about it. And
oh, okay, yeah. We haven't posted it yet. Yeah, you saw the highlight video, right?
Mm-hmm. Did you have anything to do with that?
I did the doc video, so he did the highlight videos. The only thing I'll have to do with is when we sit down, we kind of brainstorm on what's going to happen, and then we'll talk about it. But as far as the whole composition of like the sequence and everything, that's him. And then usually, just because there's two of us, two heads are better than one, he'll kick it back to me and say, "Hey, what do you think?" I'll throw a couple suggestions, but for the most part, he's grown a lot. And actually, we just had a podcast recording with him recently too, but he's definitely come a long way from when he started, and I think he's pretty good at it. These weddings, he's getting pretty good at just.
I gotta admit, man, stuff like that. When I see a newbie, like relative to me, he's a newbie, but he's putting out content where I'm like, damn, that's kind of nice. I'm not gonna lie, like I'll sit back and I'll be like, all right, good for you, man. But in the back of my mind, I'm kind of like, screw you, Angelo. Like, you have no idea. You have no idea how long it took me to get there. But I'm glad. No, he is doing really good. And from what I saw, he's been doing video for me like 5 years now, maybe 4 or 5 years.
I don't know how long. Because I mean, technically, us working together, it's been 2 years. Because he jumped on. He was already doing video, but he hasn't only been doing the wedding videos, I think, for these past 2 years. Because I don't think he did any weddings before that. So
I think 5 years is about right, because we were just talking with him with that new Hartford photo meet when he did video. That might have been just his start. That was 3 years ago.
Yeah, I was thinking 3 years ago at least, because that's when I first came out with a camera. My first camera outing.
What was your first camera?
I guess so.
My first camera was a Canon 60D, I believe, and that was actually someone lent it to me, and then I was gonna try to bump up. Or was it? No, I'm sorry. It was the 40D. Let's go back even farther. And I was just like, this thing, I didn't know better. So I was like, okay. But then I was like, quickly realized like nighttime, ISO, it was just bad. And then I was like, well, I found on Craigslist a 60D, and I got the 60D that I bought. But then I realized it didn't have video. And I was like, honestly, my first initial intent, like you've seen my band when I played in bands. Yeah. So originally what I wanted to do was make videos for my music. That was the whole reason I kind of got into the video part. I was like, I want to eventually make videos for all my music. So that's when I kind of said, I want the 80D, because that was at the time before the 90D was out, the next small enough, cheap enough, but looked pretty good. So that's what got me there. And then the GH5 was basically the next step up. It's a really nice camera for doing video.
Is that what you have now?
I have them both still. I still have the 80D because, and it's kind of played out this year because Zoom, weddings and coverage kind of is the new thing that we're kind of like putting in our arsenal. So the Canon actually was the first one to kind of integrate into the utility, the webcam utility. So I was able to use that, and I've used it for a couple weddings now for the Zoom coverage. And because Zoom, the highest rate it's really going to convert to is 1080, I can't really do 4K. I was like, there's no reason for me to get rid of this camera, because that was the only drawback with the 80D, is that the reason I got the GH5 is because it doesn't do 4K. And YouTube does and everything. And we could start telling the difference between those clips that just weren't quite, crisp as the rest of them were, or when you're trying to zoom in and all of a sudden it looks like a home video. So, but I still love the 80D, and I still like taking pictures with it too. I'll just kind of bump around, and it's actually kind of nice because I'll do dual camera it sometimes too. It's just nice not to have to change the lenses. You just like boom, because I have a speed booster for the GH5, so I use all my Canon lenses for that. But yeah, it works for me at least.
That's all that matters, man, is that it works for you.
But Angelo's been doing really good. Like I'm impressed when I see his stuff. I'm like, all right. And his music choices, because a lot goes into it, as a filmmaker. It's not just putting the clips together in sequence, but I always tell Miguel too, a lot of it has to do with audio and making sure that the audio is making sure the audio matches up, is good quality, because like I've heard it explained before, you can watch a bad video with good audio and bear it and watch it through. But if you get a good video with bad audio, you're gonna cut out. You're just
Dude,
like,
I couldn't have said it better myself.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Words by the David Gonzalez, but I don't know if it was actually from him or the video he watched.
That was from somebody else. Those were not my words. But it's a very good point. It's a valid point. And I was like, I'm gonna repeat these. So.
No, I've heard the same thing, and it's so true. It's so true.
Don't ever underestimate audio.
Matt, let's go. Are you ready to go into your older videos?
Well, they're not
what'd you
that
say?
old. These are actually not old at all. But I feel like I can confidently now look at them and give people an idea of what went through my mind when I made them.
Yeah. So I know you have a little bullet point here that said it's never too early. What does that mean?
Wait a minute, don't click on that one. No, I'm just kidding. Could you imagine? It was this big embarrassment.
No, but I was going to go into that first video to show it and then talk about it.
This was my first time doing a car video. This was for a friend. He has his own car business, so this is it's actually a shout out to Dimitri for Addictive Auto. This was his car business. He just, it's funny too. I worked with him at UPS, and I walked up to him one day and I said, "Hey Dimitri," I said, "You have a business, right?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "You need a commercial done?" And he went, "Why? What do you shoot with?" I went, "Why? No cameras?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "A Canon T3i." At the time, that's what I had. I said, "A Canon T3i." "Why?" He goes, "It's a piece of crap." I'm like, "Oh, didn't even come at me with a Canon T3i. What are you gonna make from me?" And I was like, "Oh." And then one day I went up to him maybe like 7 months later, and I showed him a video I made in the backyard at my in-laws' house of a pug. We have a pug running in the backyard, and I don't know, I was just messing around with my camera and Steadicam outside, and I put sound effects in there, music. The video was 10 seconds long. Sold Dimitri on my capabilities as a filmmaker, and he's like, "Do you want to make that commercial?" He goes, "Use that camera that you used." And I said, "Sure." And it's for his Addictive Auto commercial, and this is the one that you're about to see.
Here we go.
Hey Ben. Ready for breakfast, bud?
Yeah.
All right.
Nice work. Nice work. I hadn't seen it before, so that's my first time
that was
seeing
your
it.
first time seeing that?
Yeah, I like it. I'll tell you what the things I did like about it. Again, you're gonna hit right on money. The audio made the difference because it brought so much more to the story. Him thinking about the racetrack, hearing the
sound
cars,
effects,
it was just like that was key. And I like the shots you did. You can probably attest to this. Like, once you start doing video, you never watch movies the same. You're just every little shot, even if it really isn't some, because you're like, that has nothing to do with the story, but you appreciate the shot. Like, okay, and so like you did one quick little shot of around the where the wheel was as he was walking towards it and everything. It was so quick, and so I was like, but it brought the story. It took him there. Yeah. It was perfect as far as that. And I like the way the last shot that you did, where it kind of went up from the car perspective through the roof and saw him get up. That was a nice shot too.
Oh,
but,
okay. You noticed that. Sometimes I watch that and I think, does that take you out of the video because you know that there's a camera there? But no, like, I think
it gives you a different perspective, because it almost kind of changes frames, but without changing frames. You've just flipped the scene. But I liked it.
I love it. Every time I watch, I get chills. I'm like, man, I should probably become a race car driver right now.
Shut up, Miguel.
But back to what Dave was saying, right? So Matt, you're married. Have you ever watched a movie and then told your wife, "Hold on, play that back," and then
I swear to God, before you even said this, my example would have been how many times my wife I'll say something that she's just, it goes right over her head. I'm just like, do you understand how hard that shot probably was to make, or something of that caliber? Yeah. Just, I will appreciate like the aspect of what went in to make that happen. Yeah. And our wives just don't care.
It's true, and to that extreme, right? But then to the other extreme, I'll watch some documentaries, and I forget what documentary we were watching, but there were just certain scenes where like the guy just had to walk into the office, so they were just filming him walk to the office, and then just film him, just sitting down or doing something. I'm like, man, those scenes were so irrelevant, but they just made the story. 100%. And I'll like literally play it back like 20-30 seconds just to watch it again. I'm like, man, but it goes right over her head, But
I think it's because those
moments, it's those little things.
They bring realism though, like if you've had like a long day at work and you come in, you sit down on the couch, it's like you just know what your mind's racing just to get that walk into the hallway, sit on the couch, and it's like and like those little, and the quietness, the stillness, like that's realism. So you're just like, you're there, the tension's building because of the silence, but like that's small little things in a story, but that, I don't know, those make key differences to me.
It's so funny that like those little scenes that we talked about, like they literally make the story. But it's just so funny. It's like, man, they literally had someone just like, okay, now walk through the hallway like you would, normally, and then sit at your desk, and that's it. Yeah. But they just draw the story all together. Just filled it all in.
Editors do not get nearly as much credit as they deserve. It's usually the directors. It's usually the actors. Editors bring these things to life. And these actors, these directors, they'd be nothing without the editors. It
does take a lot, and I think what's kind of cool is we're talking about storytelling, but you are at that point taking the job of director, and I don't know what the actual name of that job is, but to make sure the continuity of his hair being a mess and everything, there's people on movie sets that have that particular job, and also to put all the research of what kind of signs would be in the garage and this and that, I'm sure they were there, but just putting everything together to make it come to life. There's so many aspects of it that, like we were saying, watching movies now, you notice these little things and you're like, man, props to the costume director who, made sure whatever. Or when we see the little things like, hey, that's not supposed to be there, or that wasn't that. When you talk about editors, one of the biggest things that I always notice is when something is not edited correctly. Like that person's head was down in this shot and all of a sudden their head is like, little things like that. But you look at it.
First season of Friends, so many editing mistakes. I'm not even joking. Like my wife would be watching Friends. I'd be like, he just moved 5 feet forward. And she's like, what? I'm like,
you're like, no, but rewind it. He was standing, it's like you're playing like Sherlock Holmes over here and you're like, it's
so crazy. But
the stories, and most people don't notice that though. They really don't. It just blows right past them. But when you get involved to see what it takes, you're like, wait, they messed up there, and not to, put anybody, under the bus, but it's just like,
that's what happens though. Like it is what it is. And like if you ever seen dialogue sequences when it changes angles from one person, now you're looking at the other person. I can't tell you how many times the words are now coming from the guy the camera is on, but you could tell that in this particular take, the one that the camera is in back of is still talking. You can see the jaw moving from behind, and the one in front is just reacting to that, and you're like, oh, they muted the audio of the guy from behind, and now we're hearing this, and it's like, it's weird because it still doesn't take me out of the movie. I'm still enjoying it, but I do notice that thing, and it sticks out to me, and that's kind of the curse of anything that you're into. You only see what goes on behind the scenes. Like that's the thing that you're into. Like for people who are into cars, they think of like the ingenuity of what it took to make the car. I look at a car, I just look at a car. That's me personally. But like it's like that with anything that you're into. You know?
Although at the same time, I don't know if you ever do this, because I know we've kind of talked about how we'll look at YouTube and dissect things, but like, you ever watch the one shots, like some of the best one shots in movies, and you just see like these sequences where they're just like everything.
Those are cool to watch. Those are super
they're
cool.
so amazing. Just like they got basically 10 to 15 minutes or whatever, even 5 minutes of just everything in place perfectly. You're following them either around a restaurant or up a stairwell or whatever. And it's
the fight scene, is that what
I've seen the fight scene though. That one is crazy. The one with the guy going into the restaurant and the club saying hello to everybody, and then I think it's the one from like True Detective or something where he's like in the compound, and he's going to get out because it was already like showing that this was in the past, but it's just like edge of your seat filming. It's just like it follows them through these houses and everything. It's amazing what they can do just to continue the story.
That is next level. Because
it's
even like when you're watching, you're like trying to find like, okay, was there some type of like, can I notice something? Can I notice something little that
did something go wrong? Because
exactly,
especially with fight scenes going on, it's like, how did they get all this choreography to work perfectly and still keep? And the guy, I think in that one that you're talking about, they said he did like 15 takes, I think it was, or it was 7, or I don't know what it was, numerous takes. Like, that's crazy. He must have been just like exhausted at the end of that day.
But like, I'd be terrified to be like guy number 37. Because I'd be like, oh God, like they 36 guys went perfect. Now it's on me. Like, I got to do this exactly.
At the same time, I wouldn't want to be guy number 1 because you got to do that 36 times. You're like, oh,
true, you do have to do
why
it
does
37
37 keep messing up?
It's not on you. You just have to keep. But you get paid by the hour.
Yeah, I guess so. Right?
Yeah, true.
Some of these actors, you can't ask for much.
Hey Matt, we'll go on to your last the last video, the Nicaragua.
You're pushing me out of this podcast here.
No, just for time's sake.
Come on now, everybody, get ready for a treat. It's time for stepping out for something mighty good to eat. You looking for atmosphere? Well, they got it happening here. They're doing barbecue the way it ought to be. Bring your sister, brother, significant other. Bring all your pals. There's always something smoking at Smoking Al's.
All right, I have two things.
Well done, Matt.
Two things I want to point out.
I'm burning, right? Are you burning too?
I'm hungry, boys.
Seriously, I am starving though right now too. I didn't eat dinner yet, but it's so subtle, but I think it makes a difference. And I'm supposing you probably maybe did in After Effects, unless you really got the fire cooking and you just put your camera in the fire. But the sparks, I suppose it's After Effects, but the sparks coming through. I know you had it in one of your transitions, but in the initial shot, you kind of had them going through. But it just adds more because it makes you feel like you're there. You're like, oh wait, and you hear them. It's just, I don't know. I liked that part of it.
I was doing a testimonial for a client. They had I totally forgot to remove from the background. Now you got the client 3/4 shot. He's not looking at the camera. He's looking away from the camera. But there's a whole section behind him, a whole scenario happening behind him. All my gear was just right there in the open, and it's just my case was wide open, and all my gadgets were popping out, and as I'm halfway, he's doing his bit, and I'm looking at my camera, and I went, oh my god, and I couldn't stop him. Because like this was on his time, it wasn't really on my time. He wasn't asking for a commercial. We were asking for a testimonial, so he had to he was giving us his valuable time. So I'm not gonna ask him to repeat himself and start over. I'm just like, oh my god. So I like shut up. I let him finish, and like we asked all the things that needed to be asked, and then I said okay. I didn't move the camera, and I just got a clean plate of the background. So I cleaned everything up. I moved it offset. Got a nice clean plate without my stuff in there, and literally his entire interview is, if you saw like what it looked like behind the scenes, it's disgusting. But I literally snipped him out like a 5th grader and put him in the background that was clean. So now there's just 2 videos, one on top of the other, that's cut in half. And if you hide any of those 2 videos, you'll see just like, it looks like a 5th grader cut out a piece of paper on top. But when you watch the full video, you'll never notice it.
What I love about that story, and it's the same thing I've actually run into in photography. I think we talked about this one time before on the show. Like, I went to a photo meeting. I think it was the second photo meeting we went to, and I started using my viewfinder instead of my live view, and I totally forgot that my viewfinder does not change my settings for me. So like when you bump your ISO all the way up, it just looks amazing in viewfinder. I came back and I had these blown out images, but the point is that when you saw your problem, you had to find a way to fix it, and now you've just expanded your arsenal of what you can and can't do, which is really cool. Because like, I had to go and do research, like, how can I save these images? Now you like know how to mask in there, and I mean, I'm sure you knew how to do it before, but it's just like you knew how to problem solve. It basically just ups your game a little bit more by your own mistake. So it's like there's always a benefit to doing it the wrong way sometimes, because you find a way to work around it.
I think it's that problem solving,
Sorry.
Yeah, now I know just to not use my viewfinder.
Or to do that again. But it makes you more of a valuable person.
Because it's the experience is the best teacher. When you mess up once, you're not going to do it again. You're like, okay, let me just make sure.
So true. We're useless creatures, dude.
It's that problem solving skill, man. Like, it's very rare. Like,
which I think is another testament of those who will survive, is the ones that know how to problem solve. Because if you're just kind of like the cookie cutter, hey, I know how to work a camera, but you don't know how to problem solve, it'll make a big difference at the end of the day. So
it's funny too, because that shoot, I had a shotgun mic, I had a Sennheiser mic, boom, all set up, ready to go. I hit record. It says no SD card. I went, oh, bet. That's back at the office. Fine. Okay, he's not going to know. I said, listen, so I'm going to just put a lav mic on you. We're going to put it up through your shirt, and we're going to clip it on there. So we did it all. He's like, oh. And it was a pain in the butt, too. Like, he was like this, and I was like, no, like this. 5 minutes, got to put this mic on him. So it's all set. I'm like, you good? He's like, yep. How's it look? I was like, it looks great. Hit record. No SD card in the lav mic. I'm like, yo, I'm officially the dumbest guy that's ever walked this earth. I'm officially so stupid, it's not even funny anymore. So I'm like, all right, don't panic. I'm like, just for backup purposes, I'm going to go ahead and just throw my iPhone in your shirt pocket. And and just like I'm recording right now, same way I recorded with him. So we put it in his pocket. This was my main source of audio. And believe it or not, this is the quality of an iPhone mic is very, very good. It wasn't as good as it would have been, but it was a testimonial video, so I got away with it. But again, that would have been better than my camera audio. So like problem solving, just find a way. Like, worst case scenario, you can clean up anything that the iPhone didn't get correctly in post, so long as like it's not garbage audio. Like, it still needs to be clean enough, which the iPhone audio is. So I was able to do, mess with the amplitude, mess with the volume, and do everything that needed to be done to make it a professional video. And the number one thing is just don't panic. Just find a way to fix it. And then if you can't find a way to fix it, then panic. It's bad.
And that's the biggest thing too. Don't panic in front of the client, because
in front of the client. Don't tell them. Don't tell them things are going wrong either.
You have to keep your cool, and just because like you said, you might be able to find the problem after the fact too, or find the solution, but like you got to keep a cool head when things are going crazy. You just got to be like,
are failing. The systems are failing.
Oh my goodness, your brain's on meltdown. But it's
you're literally just like, oh my god. And like on the outside, you just got to be like, so here's what we're gonna do.
I love the backup thing. I've used that before too. Although now I actually bring the backups because I don't trust my stuff. I have more backups than anybody as far as like, what are you moving in? I'm like, no, I just got backups on backups on backups. I don't want to. Anyhow, all right. Well, how are we doing on time? What do we got?
Matt, we're gonna look at your last video, and then we're gonna talk about it. And then Dave's got 10 questions for you.
Oh, shit.
I
That
love
nice
that.
2021.
I
I
love
love that.
that. I love that.
You know that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was just gonna say it's not really so much about the commercial. I was just gonna say this does kind of show that everything adjusting, though, I think means that it's going to be more work for videographers. In the sense of, yeah, maybe you're not covering events the same, but now these companies that want to bring the product out to them, or the live coverage of like, you know, yeah, there's no more expos, whether it's the construction expo or the video game expo or this, you know, like everything's like live now, or for streaming or for this or that. So I feel like there's still a huge market for videography. It's changing gears so much, and even more so the little guys that didn't think they really need to go out and advertise, well, they need to reach their customers somehow now. So this might be the way they're going to do it too.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys I don't know if you guys heard it, but in the headphones, like there is so much sound, like just with the saw, like everything just moving, machinery moving, like it totally like gets you. I love the lettering too.
I like that too.
It reminds me of the Ford commercial. I don't know, like the big like the
I like it
letters coming
because
down.
the attention to detail of having the shadowing under the lettering too. I like
Yeah,
that.
it's just
It added
sick.
a little element to it.
I love that video, man. Yeah,
It's
very
good.
well
I
done,
like it. I
very
mean,
well
your
done.
work is great. I love it. It's like professional, high quality, which is what you are, you know, and that's like, it shows. You can see what 4K does. You can see what storytelling does. You can see what the audio does. It's like checks all the boxes, I think the phrase, you know, it's like, that's where it's at. That's what it's a real filmmaker is about. A lot of these people, and I don't want to like put anybody down, but a lot of people are out here just trying to make videos, and I'm probably one of them, you know, but at the same time, you can see where you're trying to aspire towards. It's a lot of elements. It's not just holding the camera and capturing some footage. So
From ball game, bro.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, though. Those were all.
All great videos, Matt. We really appreciate you showing these videos and letting us show your videos actually, and just to kind of low-key critique your work, but like, you know, nonetheless, great work. The sky's the limit, man. You know, look how far you come. But without further ado, we have.
Are you ready for 10 questions?
I'm not even ready, man.
All right. So, but best videography sequence in a movie that you enjoy.
Joker is one of those movies I told you is a cinematic masterpiece to me. But that dancing scene on the stairwell is it's become iconic, but it is a masterpiece in itself. It is such a work of art that when he's dancing on the stairwell, when he finally becomes the Joker in that movie. I know you haven't seen it before.
I haven't
but
seen it yet, so.
I actually haven't seen it, but it's kind of funny how like that's it. To me, it's just a meme.
Yeah, I've seen
You know
the
what I'm saying?
scene. Yeah, I've seen the scene of him kind of, isn't he kind of like very like
It's like
yeah.
sprawled out.
Round and around.
Yeah.
It's become, because if you got to watch it in its context, he becomes the Joker finally. He loses it. He's got to be on a Tonight Show that night, and he goes from being this kind of weird guy in this room, and he dresses up to become the Joker, and this music is playing, and he's just feeling himself, and you're just like, jeez, this guy is out of his mind right now. He's in his own world, and he's dancing on the stairs, he's jumping in his puddles, and you're just like, oh my god, this guy is so twisted. That's literally what you're doing when you're watching that. You're like, this is nuts. That's a great sequence. I'd probably say, as of right now, probably the best sequence of cinematography.
So this can be big name, small name, whatever. Who inspires you now?
As of right now, you have Corridor Digital. Peter McKinnon's so cliche to say, but I do watch him. I'm subscribed to him on YouTube, and he's got a lot of good, really good advice, solid advice.
All right, question number 3. Do you like your own Instagram posts?
No.
Okay. I love it. That was the answer he was ready for.
No, that's pathetic. My God, how embarrassing.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. That's exactly my sentiments.
Finally, one person that chose Dave's side.
If it
Yeah.
had like 11,000 likes, yeah, I'd hit that button just because no one's going to see it. But not with me. I get like 20.
I don't want to break your image of Miguel, Matt, but I'm pretty sure Miguel double likes all his. If you could make an epic B-roll of your life, what song would you put behind it?
Linkin Park.
Part is, he's probably right as a meme to myself. Because when I started on YouTube, my name was Linkin Park 06. And all my old videos were Linkin Park. I hate to say
Hey,
it.
when they came out, they were hot. Like everybody was about it. And then even now, the other day I was working and I could put on the album on Spotify. I'm like, this still hits. Like it's still good. Number 5, most interesting place you've been to because of your videography.
The Hamptons in New York was the most. I know it's like so weird. It's probably like so cliche. Like I haven't been to Italy. I haven't been to like California because of my videography. So far, it's pretty early in my professional career. So it's been the Hamptons in New York, which doesn't sound that exciting, but I had to take a lunch break in the Hamptons, and I bought 3 subs for me and 2 of my friends, and it cost me $45.
Wow.
So that was an experience.
Hey, that's a story right there. But yeah.
I literally hope those people go out of business.
Number 6, what is the last thing you've tried for the first time? Number 7, biggest pet peeve. In videography, in life, and whatever. Something that just like strikes a chord. You got basically 10 seconds to just get it off your chest.
I don't like when I'm in let someone go in traffic and they don't wave.
Oh, they don't give you the thank you wave, huh?
I don't like that at all.
Them off after that. Like,
I just really don't like them anymore. And if I'm behind them, I need to know what they look like from the side and front. So I drive up to them and I have to know everything about that person, because if you're a bad enough person to not wave, thank you very much. Who doesn't do that?
I love it. Human beings are such interesting people. Like it's these little things that make us so distinct, but like it's so funny. Number 8.
It came to my head right away too.
Actually, what is your favorite lens? Your go-to lens?
No doubt, nifty 50. And I know it's a cliche answer, but it is. It's the best lens in the world.
What is a brand or client that you would like to work with?
I would love to work with Disney someday. I know it's like big dreams and because they are they are ABC, but I would love to do something for Disney, because I know my wife is obsessed with Disney, and anytime you do a thing for them, they always repay, not just in monetary value, but like a free trip to Disney, anything, just something. I would love to just work for them just because, pretty much because of my wife. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that would be she's obsessed with Disney. So.
That's where dreams come true, right? Is that the saying? Or
wow.
I can't remember.
I've never been there, but I would love
Miguel,
to go.
again, Matt, thanks so much for joining us this evening, giving us a little insight into your mind and how you process everything and how you come up with this amazing work. So we appreciate it, and hopefully we'll do this again sometimes in the Hamptons over a $15 sub. That'd be a dream for me.
That sounds so good right now, to be honest.
Really does. Actually, that's I'm so hungry right now.
It
So.
wasn't nearly as good as it sounds, Phil.
But anyhow, so appreciate you coming on, and this is going to wrap it up. So for us, we just ask that, if you're enjoying what you're hearing, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the comments. Let us know what you think. If you have questions for us, for Matt, whatever, we love to hear, or even just feedback or what you want to hear from us. So till then, we're signing off, and thanks for tuning in.
Also stay tuned for a giveaway that we're going to be giving away soon.